Now we're just going to jump in and just start working with a bunch of these different objects, and I'm just going to fly through this and show you how you can manipulate these things and just kind of the basic guidelines and stuff with working with them. So the first thing that we're going to use are the primitives, and these are the basics of how you can make models, how you can do a lot of things in Cinema 4D. So up here where our cube is, these are our primitives. If we click and hold this down, you can see all the different primitives that you can select, and we'll start with the cube again. And the thing that makes these special is that if you go into the attribute editor and click on the object panel, you have these different attributes you can edit on these primitives. So I can change the segments on these, and you can't really see anything happening. So up here at the top of the viewport we have display mode, and right now we're in the garage shading, which is the default. But if we go into line mode, now we can actually see the edges of this object. Again, it's not editable yet, but it's still showing us a preview, and this is how we can look at how we change these things on the primitive. So now, as we add these segments, you can actually see what it's doing to your model. So this can help you if you want to make a more complex object later. You can start off with the number of segments that you want, if you know. That's what these do. So I was wondering if I should use some more advanced or complicated models in the examples here, and I guess it would look nicer, look shinier, more exciting, whatever. But the thing about 3D and what I've learned in my 10 years in doing this stuff and making movies is that the basics that you need to know and that you apply to make stuff look cool or look interesting. This fillet can add rounded edges, can even turn it into a sphere if you want to do that. But usually this is to create like beveled edges. So let's jump back to the garage. Now we have these nice edges on this cube. So just go through these primitives, then we can make it editable and now modify it. Because once you understand how one works, you can kind of understand how they all work. So if we go into this cone, let's get rid of the cube, look at the cone. So we can see that it has its own settings that you can modify. And what you want to do, you want to use these settings to make the object look how you want before you make it editable. Because after you make it editable, you can't go back and modify those settings. So you would usually change this stuff to look the way you want it to look, and then you would make it editable, and then you would go through and model and stuff like that. So with all of these, you'll see also they have these little orange squares, and that allows you to adjust some of the parameters. You can see this is the bottom radius. So look for these things too on the objects, because they're little clues as to how you modify these. So as we go through here, you'll see the trend that they're all pretty similar. They have these different settings that you can manipulate here or here. So just flip through them, and you'll see that you can make a lot of different objects that may look a lot different than the ones that you see when you first create them. And in all of them, if you see these things on here called caps, this will allow you to create beveled edges on the ends of the objects, which you can do some nice looking stuff with these too. So just flip through these and just start messing around with them, and you'll see that you can start off with some, like, the thing that I really learned about primitives kind of too late was that I would just make, let's say, a cube, and I would just go right off the bat and make it editable, when I should have modified it with these segments and these different functions. Like, say you wanted to bevel the edges of this cube. Now you could just start with this cube and then go into the polygons and edges and modify it to bevel the edges. Or if you just want a simple bevel cube, just go in here and do it right off the bat and adjust these, and then okay, now I have a nice beveled cube. Then go, because that saves you a lot of time. So as we flip through these, let's go to this disk, and you'll see the settings on this one. This one has an inner and an outer radius. You can change the segments, which if you can't see stuff happening, then switch into the line mode, and then now we can see what that's doing. So you'll switch back and forth from line mode sometimes, usually when you're modeling, just to see the structure before, so you can see the structure inside of it. And so you'll see these all have pretty similar options when you go through them all. So you'll see most of these have pretty similar options once you figure out the main stuff. You have this guy, which is a figure, which, let's switch back into garage mode. You can't really do much with him but change his height and his number of segments, which again, if you want to really see what that's doing, go into the line mode. Now you can see what it's doing. This guy is just usually used for comparison. So if you were mocking up a scene in which you wanted to build a doorway or a house or something, and you figured out, oh, okay, I'm going to use this guy's scale, whatever it might be, as one person's normal height, then you can go and drop this guy in, because you can't really do much else with him. And then you have this special primitive, which is a landscape object, which you can grab these things, and if you want to see what it does, which is used to make mountains and things like that, you can just go into here, into these attributes, and change them. And again, if you can't see what's happening, you can try switching into a different mode. And you can see this is adding, making the geometry or adding more edges. It's making it a heavier geometry. So you can just go through all these primitives, and the really good thing about primitives, or I think the best way to use them, is if you want to model something, try using the primitives built-in controls to get the object as close as you can before you make it editable. So like, let's just say you wanted a cube that had 4 polygons on each side. Now you could go through and make this editable and slice it up with the knife tool, which I'll show you later in the when we go through like the basic modeling stuff. But I guess I could just show you right here too, so you can see. So let's say we don't mess around with any of those objects, those tools. I'm going to press K to go into the knife, and I have to be in polygon mode. Oops, I need to make it editable. I'm going to select all the polygons. I'm going to press K to go into the knife tool. I'm going to go into the loop mode, and then let's say I wanted to have 4. I have to go like that, and then like that. And now it looks like this. So I have the 4 polygons I want, but it's off because I did it by hand. And you can do it to make it really precise, but I just want to show you the difference. Or I could have just gone here and gave it 2 segments and then made it editable. Now I have the same thing, but it's cleaner and better. So when you're looking at these primitives and you're going to model something else based on them, be sure to check out all their different parameters to see how close you can make it look to what you want to model by using these, and then make it editable and then make the object. It'll save you a lot of time. So just flip through these and screw around with them, because you'll be surprised like how close you can get it to some of the objects you want to make before screwing around with the modeling. And I think when I first started, the thing that really messed me up is, like I said, I just jumped right in and made these editable and then tried to model my way to make them look like certain objects, when a lot of the time I could have just adjusted these settings and, you know, had it look the way I want it to look right off the bat. So make sure and go through all these primitives and just mess around with their settings. That's what they're there for. There's a couple special ones, like this relief object, which I can do something on this later, because it's kind of a special object where you would bring in a black and white image and it would create a relief based on that. So that what you would do here is load in a black and white image, and then it would create a relief. And then this guide is a special object used for modeling or whatever you want to use it for. You can't really make anything out of this. So you can kind of ignore those for now. But the ones that you're going to use the most are going to be these primitives here, besides this figure, but cubes, spheres, and all this other stuff. And something I would just like to add at the end for modeling, we'll do a whole modeling thing, but when you're using these primitives and you want to make stuff, I know there's different ways that people teach drawing, where say to draw a person, you would draw a circle or a sphere for the head, and then a cylinder for the neck, and then a cube for the torso, whatever. So you can do that here too. When you're thinking of modeling things, you can kind of rough it out using these primitive objects. And you can then adjust their parameters to get closer to what you really want it to look like. So you can do that, and let's say we want this to be filleted, and so try doing stuff like this with these objects to just rough out some basic things. Try to copy some things. Like that kind of looks like a rubber stamp or something. And you'll find that you can do a lot just by sticking these primitives together. So then if we wanted to move all as one, you know, I can parent these to here. Now we have this little rubber stamper or something. And if you wanted to go modify this whole thing, I could select them all, make them editable, and then we can go in here and start modifying the polygons and doing some different things to make it look the way we want. So these primitives are really flexible, so make sure you try them all and screw around with their settings and kind of see what they're capable of.